who will try to use this and are already using it to divide.
In the area have lived side by side for years, and they're understood to be very tolerant of one another, and he just could not believe that something like this would happen.
Are you concerned that actually, we're at a fractious time at the moment? We've seen febrile scenes for months across our country. Is this going to feed some of that?
It then crosses the threshold into terrorism.
So that can't be established in the moment, however compelling the visual evidence may be.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you look at what's happening here.
Of course, the mainstream media has typically disgraced itself in the wake of the terror attack on a synagogue on Yom Kippur, because the mainstream media in the United Kingdom, just like the political establishment, are complicit in covering up the barbaric crimes of Islam and instead creating a bogeyman in an invisible far right. And even when there has literally been an Islamist terror attack on a mosque, killing innocents, still they reach the fact that the real problem is people like me, people like Connor Tomlinson. We're the issue. So the news agents, or the fake news agents as I put them, that terrible show hosted by the hard leftists Emily Maitlis, John Sopel and Lewis Goodall, actually posted, although I am told they have now deleted, there are many people in journalism who will try to use this and are already using it to divide. Why the Yom Kippur synagogue attack in Manchester will be exploited by the right wing to sow division in the UK. I mean, I was utterly furious about this. I said, are you fucking kidding me? It's not right-wing journalists sowing division. It's the Islamists like Jihad literally trying to kill us. The fake news agents are scum. Konstantin Kisin weighed him, saying scum is the right word, adding a man called Jihad has gone on murder spree on a synagogue, and two respected, neutral and balanced recent BBC stalwarts would like you to believe the problem is right-wing journalists. You really, really, really don't hate the media enough. Winston Marshall added, I have such deep contempt for everyone involved with this sham podcast, a murderous Islamist attack, and they're concerned about journalists reporting on it. They will vilify all of us who are actually prepared to talk about it honestly whilst cravingly avoiding the truth. Now, that post on X was actually sparked from a conversation with one of the worst men in Britain, a bloke called David Yelland, the former editor of the Sun newspaper. Watch.
But I also know, very sadly, there are many people in our profession, and sadly in journalism, on the right, I have to say, and probably on the left as well, who will try to use this and are already using it to divide.
When you say already using it, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I switched on GB News, actually as soon as I heard about this, because that's sort of my journalist instinct, and they were talking about asylum seekers. They were talking about how the Prime Minister may, in their view, or in the view of whoever was talking, had lost control over the number of Muslims in this country and so on. Now, that makes all kinds of assumptions about what the attack is and who the perpetrator is. But it is also, in my view, what terrorists want.
And there are Maitlis and Sopel just nodding along, when we all know that they have been absolutely desperate since the Unite the Kingdom rally to try and create some type of far-right bogeyman. I mean, James O'Brien keeps referring to the Farage riots, right? Even though there's absolutely no way Nigel had anything to do with what went on in Southport last year. Yesterday, he was literally jumping through hoops in order not to refer to Jihad al-Shami as a terrorist, let alone an Islamist terrorist. Watch. If you're enjoying what we're doing here on Outspoken, please consider joining our thriving community over on Substack, www.outspoken.live. You can sign up completely for free, but Substack is so important to me. It is a free speech platform. It protects me from big tech cancellation. Plus, you get to communicate directly with me. Head on over www.outspoken.live, enter your email address, and sign up today.
Terrorist inevitably appears in coverage, and it certainly appears to fit all of the facts as we have them. Andy, what are the rules, as it were, for applying that term definitively?
Well, it comes down to the motive. And if the motive is politically driven, and if your intent is to cause violence for that purpose, then it then crosses the threshold into terrorism.
So that can't be established in the moment, however compelling the visual evidence may be.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you look at what's happening here, and you look at what's unfolding. It pretty much ticks every single box that you would expect of a terror attack.
Then there was the always wrong Paul Brand on Woke ITV, who, of course, totally obsessed with the far right, but doesn't give a damn about an Islamist terror attack on Jews. So he's constantly talking on Woke ITV about the far right, but he could not even use the word Islamist last night. Instead, he was concerned about feeding tension on the streets because of the profile of the attacker. Just say it. He was an Islamist extremist. Watch.
Absolutely, and for all the sort of messages of solidarity that we're hearing tonight, the coming together of communities, given the profile of the attacker, are you concerned that actually, we're at a fractious time at the moment? We've seen febrile scenes for months across our country. Is this going to feed some of that tension?
Of course I'm concerned. How could you not be after what's happened today and after the conversations I've had with my family and my friends who live around here. But I also think it's really important to say what happened today, that man that you've just shown a photo of, he was a terrorist. It was a terrorist act. And what that means is that he chose on this special day, on Yom Kippur, one of the most special days in the Jewish calendar, to come down the road to that synagogue and to murder Jewish people on the streets of Manchester, on the streets of Britain, for no other reason than they're Jewish. That's terrorism. Terrorism has no place in this country. And however febrile and difficult things are in politics or in our communities at the moment, terrorism is a whole different thing that we will never allow.
And as Connor Tomlinson of Tomlinson Talks pointed out, Sly News used the live announcement that 2 people had died during today's Muslim terror attack on Yom Kippur to remind viewers that Manchester is a very tolerant, multicultural area and a place where Jewish people and Muslim communities have lived side by side for years. As he said, the bodies weren't even cold before they started repeating the diversity is our strength propaganda. Watch.
Have been so busy, and another man told me, which I've heard from a few people around here actually, that this area is a very tolerant area. It's a multicultural area. It's a place where Jewish people and Muslim community, there are large communities of both of those faiths in the area, have lived side by side for years, and they're understood to be very tolerant of one another. And he just could not believe that something like this would happen, and let alone here in a community where there are multiple different faiths living here in peace and tolerance. But yes, just confirming that news that we've had from Greater Manchester Police, that 2 members of the public are confirmed now to have died from this attack at the synagogue here.
And there was so much of this across the Sly News losers and the British Bashing Corporation. Watch this.
This is the holiest day, as you say, in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur, and a lot of people would have been worshipping at that mosque at the time. I haven't been able to speak to anyone directly, but looking around, there's a lot of extremely concerned people around here. Obviously, worshippers from the mosque. There are crowds on the street just outside this cause.
People on the hard right, the far right, are a bit divided on their attitude to the Jewish community these days in the UK. But certainly the Jewish community has felt that they were at risk from multiple directions, some from the sort of extremist Islamist direction, but also some from the kind of neo-Nazi elements on the far right. So it is both that are of concern, and as you say, at this stage we don't really know.
And praying that as a community we respond in the way that we typically do in Greater Manchester, and respond well, and respond by showing our love and our unity.
Connor Tomlinson, I mean, the coverage from the mainstream media has been insane, infuriating. But first, this episode of Outspoken is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. And I'm very excited to say the heat has officially arrived overseas. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra in the white hot special edition colorway from Manscaped, now available across the UK, Europe, and Australia too. Now, this is the same trimmer trusted by millions of men down below, now with a clean white and gold finish that looks just as smooth as it shaves. And it isn't just a pretty face. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is built to handle your most sensitive areas with care, helping reduce the risk of nicks, cuts, and irritation where it matters most. So whether you're cleaning things up for a date, a trip, or just to feel a bit more put together, the white hot trimmer makes below the waist grooming a whole lot smoother, literally. Join over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Use the code Outspoken for 15% off your entire order at manscaped.com. And let me tell you, the ladies in the Outspoken audience would really do well as using this as a fail-safe gift for your boyfriend, your husband, your son, your brother, your hard-to-buy-for best mate, because the blades are designed to glide over the skin with less tug and pull, helping the bloke in your life avoid the usual redness or irritation that comes with low-quality groomers. It's simple, it's effective, it doesn't require a whole routine. Just pick it up, clean up, and move on. Whether you're using it in the shower, on the glow, or standing over the sink before a night out, the White Hot 5.0 Ultra fits into your day without getting in the way. Plus, the white and gold design actually looks so good, I don't think you'd want to be hiding this away in the bottom drawer, right? White hot looks, smooth results. The White Hot 5.0 Ultra brings the heat without cooking your skin. It's sleek, easy to use, and way less terrifying than whatever you were using before. Use the code Outspoken for 15% off your entire order at manscaped.com. That's 15% off with the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. But now, back to this show.
Yeah, it's totally sickening, and the Sky News piece in particular is gross for two reasons. The first is that the cognitive dissonance displayed by saying we're a very diverse and multicultural area where people live in harmony, but not to reassess your priors when someone who has been granted British citizenship apparently lived in this tolerant and diverse area all his life, where people coexist perfectly and it's not like a Middle Eastern PvP server recreated in our biggest city, goes out and runs a car into and stabs Jews to death on Yom Kippur, doesn't cause you to reassess how tolerant and wonderfully strong your diverse and ethnoculturally heterogeneous city is. So completely insane from them. But additionally insane because, and people who have read Ed Hussein's book Among the Mosques will know this, Manchester is particularly bad for the sons and daughters of refugees or fake asylum seekers and young Muslims being very radical and taking over mosques. So even if we are to say again that moderate Muslims, not a term I believe in, are the ones running the mosques and aren't preaching violence, well, said Muslims are expressing concern to the likes of Ed in his book and saying the sons and daughters of refugees that have been relocated to Manchester from Syria, Palestine, and Iraq are promoting anti-Zionist politics and anti-Jewish rhetoric in their mosques and are particularly hold ethnic grudges against the English because these mosques are Deobandi, which is a sect of Islam that was established in the 19th century in the British Raj, colonial administrated India, to resist the British. So there's an ethnic and colonial grudge against the British as well as hating Jews. And this has been exacerbated because the younger generation who are consuming Dawa content online, which is like ideologically subversive Islamic content online, are promoting violence against the British state and Jewish people and whites. And this is particularly prominent, again, among the Pakistani grooming gangs who blamed British girls themselves for being white kuffar, and the families of the grooming gangs excused the crimes because they said, by Allah, they dress so modestly, and shouted out during the trials, I love you, Dad. But also, if you look at the Henry Jackson Society polling from last year, only 1/4 of British Muslims living in Britain, believe Hamas did anything wrong on October the 7th. 52% want to criminalize depictions of their Prophet Muhammad, and a third want Sharia law and Islam to become the official religion of Britain. And that's mainly concentrated among second-generation, British-born, university-educated Muslims 18 to 30. So much like Mr. Jihad, who was given British citizenship and all the benefits of the asylum system, the Muslims that are born here, that have been through Britain's institutions, that are apparently as English as you and me, according to Shabana Mahmood, are the most radical, the most violent, the most Jew-hating, and the most hating of white Christians in Britain. And so this is an intergenerational problem that will not be solved by further assimilation programs or more security around synagogues. Why does the security needed in the first place? It's not the far right, it is Islam. And that is a problem that we cannot coexist with.
Connor, can you just try and explain why the elite class, the media class, are so terrified of having these conversations over Islam? I mean, the fact that on the day of an attack like that, Emily Maitlis and John Sopel, who were, of course, previously two of the BBC's main journalists for breaking news, would decide to get in some hard leftist nutter like David Yelland to talk about people like you, talk about people like me, make out that so-called right-wing journalists are the problem. Why did they do that? Like, where does the terror come from? Why are they so unable to talk about the problem that is actually right in front of them, which is their job, by the way, as journalists?
Yeah, there are three reasons, Dan. The first is, and this applies to the likes of Shabana Mahmood, she's running cover for her co-ethnics and her religion. She's trying to insulate Islam from any criticism. The second is for wet liberals.
Yeah, but she is Muslim, right? And she wants to be part of the Muslim takeover of the UK. She wants to be the first Muslim prime minister. So weirdly, with her, I understand, right? I actually understand what her motivations are. John Sopel and Emily Maitlis are not Muslim. So what's with them?
Yeah, so there's two reasons there. The second is wet liberals who believe in the blank slate, who believe that all violence and inequality, economic, education, even geographic, is completely arbitrary and can be remedied by a liberal state who realizes that literally everyone is exactly equal and that we are fungible and replaceable and swappable. And so if you just give enough social housing and classes on women's consent to all the men from Mogadishu, Lahore, and Damascus, they will become as British or as English as you and me, according to Shabana Mahmood. The third reason, though, Dan, and this is very taboo, but there are lots of Jews who agree with me here, is that there are a subset of liberal Jews, including John Sopel and Emily Maitlis themselves, who are ethnically Jewish, but who count themselves as the children of immigrants or the children of refugees. And so they put themselves in the same box as the likes of Mr. Jihad. And so they think that if they don't allow Mr. Jihad in, that their own parents and grandparents who fled the Holocaust and the pogroms of Soviet Russia would never have been allowed in. And so Britain must apply the blank slate, must apply culture-blind liberalism that I just described to its border policy. Otherwise, the Holocaust will happen again. The great irony of this, as Renaud Camus said in his lecture to the Parisian Jewish Forum, is that liberals, gay men like himself, feminists, and liberal Jews are soaring off the branch upon which they sit because they refuse to treat Muslim anti-Semitism as any different to Jews fleeing the Holocaust. And so we have to start distinguishing between peoples, between cultures, between countries, and yes, between religions that are compatible with Britain and not. And Islam certainly is not.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.